welcome back to Soapbox. I'm your host Bruce, and in this episode we are still chatting with Dwayne Swift about Picong Party. And of course, if you are now joining us, we had a previous episode, episode 2, where we started with some of the basics in terms of, how we came up with the idea, what the platform is about, his team, and some of the issues in terms of data, electoral decisions, electoral trends, and the like. So if you haven't already, listened to that episode, and we're going to launch right into this one. And in this episode we're going to talk about some of those trends, which is where we left off in the last episode. We're also going to get into the platform itself, how it works, and what kind of information you can get from the platform, and how you go about using it, and of course continue some of our discussion about politics in Trinidad and Tobago. So, Dwayne, the functionality of the platform.
Yeah, it's built to be incredibly user friendly. Should I go into showing it or?
Yeah, definitely. For our viewers, Dwayne will share the screen so we can have a walkthrough of the app, and we're going to do that as well. So for those of you who are listening, we'll go into what's on the website, what you can get there, how you can get to the website, what's the web address, Dwayne?
thepicongparty.com.
So if you're listening, you can also follow along. If you type the web address in your browser. We're going to go into some of the how does the platform work.
I need you to enable. I need you to enable screen sharing on your end.
Oh sure. I haven't gotten. I haven't. Is it open now?
There we go. Yeah, got it.
Right.
Here we go.
Right.
And is this screen sharing?
thepicongparty.com. Yes.
Yes. And you can visit us www.thepicongparty.com. So it's very easy to navigate. When you land on the website, you'll be taken to, the big splash screen that has our banner, thepicongparty.com. And as you scroll, as you scroll down, you'd see what is this all about, which kind of describes, the reasoning reasoning and thought behind it. And we highlight 3 things that are kind of the core principles of the Picong Party, which is our information is verified. And here it says information is verified unless explicitly indicated. We've gone a step further, and we still explicitly indicate that our information is verified on each page, and we state where we get our sources, which sources So
is it that we will see that green tick every time, that shield every time it's verifiable sources?
Not yet, but that's actually
like
a really good idea.
But you will notify the reader.
Yes.
If the information is not has not been
verified. Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes, and it will be stated on top explicitly. At the top of every single page, we state where we get our information sources from, and at the bottom of every analysis or whatever, we state where we get our sources from as well. Digestible. So the kind of core of this is making complex data easy to understand. And so, we have the raw numbers, for the researchers and the analysts that are out there that want it. We have the raw numbers available, but right now, at least what's on the website is very much just made for the layman, the person just wants to see the stats and wants to make the decision, the informed decision. And coming soon, we'll be creating dialogue. So we'll be having guest writers on the website writing about specific topics, and the typical topics
based on that data, based on the
specific topics based on the data, kind of within the realm of the website. So some people are very intrigued in seeing why does Moruga Tableland vote the way they do, or why has Oropouche East stuck with the UNC since 1991, going further back, and so we'd have those discussions there. And going further down, you'd see, do you want to contribute? And, you can always shoot us an email at contact@thepicongparty.com. And we will be more than happy to, have a discussion with you about if you want to contribute, like what that would look like.
Great. And then I see you have some tabs to the top.
Yes, so we have some tabs at the top here. The political, going from left to right, political parties, constituencies. There's a drop down for general elections 2020, which contains the 2020 campaign manifestos, the general election candidates, and the 2015 general election results, which when the 2020 general election is happening, this will turn to 2020 and you will see live results here as they come in. Going further to the right again, there's a statistics tab that has political statistics and economic statistics in it.
Let me ask you, Dwayne, before you go forward. So you have this, you have a carve out a space for the general elections of 2020 in terms of the manifestos and the candidates. Is there an intention to do that for previous elections as well, where we can go back to 2015 and see the manifestos and the candidates?
Yes. So as far as manifestos go, there's no current intention, but it could be added to our backlog. As far as candidates, we already actually have that data in our database. We're just not displaying it yet.
For 2015 or like from previous elections?
Yes, 2015, 2007, I think going back as far as 2002.
Right.
And we have like actual I mean that's in terms of general election candidates, and we have actual political data going back to 1991.
Right.
But it was just kind of balancing, just making it easily available for everyone. But definitely post elections, if not before, that data will be available on here. And this tab will probably change to general elections, and it wouldn't have the 2020.
And then you can select the year, and then you can see a capsule of the information pertaining to that election. Yeah.
Yes, that is definitely in the pipeline.
Yeah, because I think the platform is not a single-use platform in terms of it's not just for 2020, but it also provides or allows for that kind of historical data where if you are doing research on elections in Trinidad and Tobago, then it would be useful.
Available. Yes, and we definitely some of it is already in our database. Some of it still has to be filled in, and just because of time, we prioritize 2015 and 2020.
2020, definitely.
And then further to the right is the FAQ, which just answers some frequently asked questions, like how do you vote, what is the role of the EBC, and other questions like that. And then we have our team tabs and our social media. Sorry, go on.
No. I was just saying, if you can quickly show us the constituencies tab.
Sure. Most people seem to be interested in this one based on the trends I've seen. But yeah, this tab, you click on the constituencies tab, and we state again, all information here has been sourced from the EBC, the website of the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago, and voting trends determined by our own internal research. Please reach out to us if you believe any information is missing, misleading, or excluded in error. And that is on every page. So here in this tab, we kind of give you an overview of the constituencies. It's, for those who aren't seeing, it's a clickable map of Trinidad and Tobago by constituency. And as you hover over each constituency, it highlights in this, it's a gray map and it highlights in a darker gray. And to the left, it's this kind of short synopsis of kind of the laws behind the creation of constituencies in Trinidad, and the boundaries, and I'm kind of answering that question as to why we have the largest constituency, which is Toco Sangre Grande, with 31,000 people, and the smallest which is Tobago East, which is 23,000 people. And
I just want to highlight something here, because again, here it says the Constitution provides as follows in terms of the delimitation of constituencies. And for those of you again who would have been following Trinidad and Tobago in general, that we increased from 36 to 41 constituencies in our lifetime. That was 2002, 2007, 2002.
So in 2002 we had 36, and 2007 elections we had 41. But
right.
This is also something we addressed in the FAQ. The actual boundary changes were done in 2004, 3 years before the general election.
Yes. So, because it would have been after the 1818, then the EBC was advised to, right. But anyway, that's not what I came here for. What I wanted to quote was that in Trinidad and in Tobago respectively, the electorate in any constituency shall not be more than 110% nor less than 90% of the total electorate of the island divided by the number of constituencies in that island. So it gives you a sense of how electoral boundaries are demarcated, and some of
Yeah.
the constraints or some of the regulations, so to speak. It also gives us some data. The largest electorate in a single constituency is 31,096, which is Toko Sandy Grande, or Sangre Grande, if we try to think properly. And the current member of parliament, when you hover over that or select that constituency, we can see that the current member of parliament is who? Glenda Jennings Smith.
Who is not
Yes.
up for election? Yes.
Who is not up for election. If we go back to and then when you go to that constituency, you see the profile. Oh, which is lovely. I didn't see that before.
Yeah.
So there is a little profile. It tells us
Oh,
that
sorry.
it tells us that where it is located, northeast, and of course you can see it in the pictorial map. It is bordered by the Atlantic Ocean, so it is a coastal constituency. It contains the towns that it contains: Matlot, Toko, Sandy Grande, Rampanalgas, Balandra, etc., etc. Like I said, who the member of parliament is, voting trends and status we can see as well.
Yep.
And the 2020 electoral candidates, we have three parties
Yep.
vying for election in that constituency. So very, very useful information, pointed information. But let me ask you, if say I don't know for some reason what my constituency is, because again, municipalities, some municipalities contain multiple constituencies,
Absolutely.
or if you just go by the area. So let's say I live in Matlot, but I don't know which constituency I'm in, or let's say I live in Pity Valley, which contains a number of
Yeah.
constituencies for the purposes of election. I live in Diego Martin rather.
Yeah.
Then how do I put in my can I put in my town, and it will tell me what constituency I'm in?
So as of now, no. That's a feature we're looking at, for coming upcoming 2022 local government elections. So, but for now, I state this in the FAQ. We link you to the EBC
Right.
to find that
You
out,
have
and
Right, so you have some useful links here
yeah,
in
here we go.
terms of where you can find things. But is there also a search feature on the site, as I see this magnifying glass, where, for example, because you've listed Matlot in this makeup of Toko Sandy, where if I type in Matlot, then
Matlot.
the search page would come up.
Yeah, no, that is definitely in our backlog right now as well in terms of features to add. Searchability definitely is a missing feature that we want to add to the website, because I did receive this feedback where someone told me that I missed their town in like constituency profile. It was just originally meant to kind of be a guide of like what this constituency looks like, and the types of like the main towns that people would hear about, to be like, oh, it's in this constituency versus that one. But definitely, that would be a useful feature to have. But currently, the EBC does this very well.
Right,
And
which is what I was about to say, where it doesn't necessarily, because again, you've demarcated the purpose of the app, which is to get data on the constituencies, and not necessarily to sort of be when I say a landing page, I mean there's levels to this, right? To put it so that if you need to find out what constituency you're in, that kind of thing, that may be something you need to do beforehand, because what you are doing is taking the information and processing the information. So you are not necessarily level 1, you're level 2 in terms of you already know what constituency you're in, or you already know of the 41 constituencies.
Yes.
Now you're doing a little deeper dive, but you do have this section on how do you vote, and I mean that is useful for any and everybody. But take us through the other features.
Sure. So the constituencies tab, we just went through that. And it highlights in the color of the party that is currently in government for that, which there are 3 colors right now, which is the PNM, the UNC in yellow, and the COP in black. If you were to navigate to the political parties tab, for instance, you can select a political party, and it would give you let me choose yeah, and it will give you kind of a synopsis of the political party and the information that they have presented to us. And we have gotten feedback that there should be some analysis on our end as far as their alignment, and as far as the description of the party. But we're working within our time constraints right now. So right now we just have what they give to us, and we have reached out to them to ask them to look at what we have.
Yeah.
Yes, we have. I have like a running spreadsheet of parties I've reached out and parties that have answered. Um, for them to give them a chance, tell us their alignments, like from the horse's mouth,
Yeah.
and description of their political
The,
parties.
yeah, and to give a description of themselves. Yeah.
Yeah, because there is, and no, we're not afraid to say we don't know. I'm trying to find a good example, but here, um, the Trinidad and Tobago Democratic Front, like alignment, information is unavailable, and we say if you have this information, please contact us. And we have links to each party's website. Just not a good example because let's go to the PNM. And if you click on this link, you'll be taken to the party's website. And similarly.
Again, another means of validation in
Yep.
terms of the information that you are presenting.
Yep. And we show the party's logo and the party's leader. Moving on to the next tab, which would be actually I should probably leave that for last. So it would be a good
Before you
segue.
move on to that tab, if we can go back to constituencies for a moment, because
Sure.
I told our listeners and viewers, the largest constituency. Is there? Do you have an idea of the smallest constituency?
It's Tobago East, yeah, the
Tobago
smallest. It's
East,
just yeah.
which has 23,103 voters, is it?
Yeah.
Or is that the population? Oh,
No,
that
that is the
That
electorate,
is the
yeah.
electorate in Tobago East, yes.
Yes.
And the 23,000 is just a little bit short of the 31,000, give or take what, 8,000
Yeah.
people. Yeah.
And the Constitution actually, then this is the reason why the Constitution actually specifically says the island, and so Tobago's division is different to Trinidad's division, and the 39 constituencies in the island of Trinidad are divided up differently to the two constituencies in Tobago. So yeah, because the Constitution specifically says, respectively, the total electorate of the island divided by the number of constituencies in that island.
Right.
Which is why.
Right. So
Yeah.
that means that the 23,103 persons who make up the electorate in Tobago East is somewhere between that 90 and 110% mark in Tobago.
Yes.
And Tobago West would be again within that bracket. Whereas in Trinidad, in Toco Sandy Grande, the 31,000 something would be between that 110% and that 90% in Trinidad only.
Yes.
And the other constituencies would fall somewhere between that percent. So it shouldn't be off. Could you click another constituency in Trinidad? Any other? Yeah. Let's
I'll
go
go with Chigonas.
which is Shogunas West. And
Yeah.
so the current electorate is 28,625 persons. Again, give or take what, 3,000 people compared
Yes.
to Toco Sandy Grande. Yeah, right.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, so you can move on. Go ahead.
Yeah. I guess I'll jump to the statistics just to show that, so we can get to the general elections at the end. But yeah, so you go to the political statistics, and again, we have our disclaimer about the EBC, and we show the voter turnout. This percentage here, actually, and I have to double and triple check this because there is no. This is based on the pure data that we have gotten from the EBC, but it's different from the data that they display on their actual website, which is different from the data that other websites display. And so I have to get my team to double and triple check this because we have the voter turnout at 71% in 2010. They have the voter turnout at, I think, 69.8%. Another website has voter turnout at 69.4%.
And is that based on based on the electoral report after the election, or
All of this information is based on the spreadsheet that they
That they
literally taken from the spreadsheet of all the votes for 2010. We just take that data and put that in our database, not even manually, like directly imported. So um, I
because I was saying the electoral report might tell us why there might
why
be a
there's a discrepancy,
there. Yeah.
perhaps, yeah. But here we can see the first graph is the comparison of the total electorate starting from 2007 up to 2020, and then the cross-reference with the voter turnout starting from 2007, ending in 2015. And so you can see a steady rise in the electorate, but a kind of flatlining of the voter
Plateau,
turnout.
of the voter
Yeah,
turnout.
plateau. Yeah. At least in respect to the electorate. And right below, you'd see three graphics, which would be the voter turnout for each year in
For each year.
percentage. And you can see the arrow saying if the voter turnout went up or went down. If it's above 70%, it is green. If it's below 70%, but above, I think 55%, it is yellow. And if it's below 55%, it's red.
Let me ask you: is there so is 2007 rather going to be the base year, or again is there a view at going even further back?
We do intend to go further back.
Okay.
Yeah, we have the data there. Again, it was just we were trying to not have readers compare. I don't want to say apples to oranges. There's just it's a much more involved aspect converting 36 constituencies to 41 constituencies and still carrying voter patterns and all of that.
Voter patterns from before, yeah.
Yeah. And still carrying all of that data forward. As far as the general electorate data, that works. But in terms of like, let's go into the
constituencies or the other, yeah.
Yeah,
so again,
5 of
so
them didn't exist.
General voter, right, in terms of general electorate and voter turnout, that would be applicable because
Yes.
this is not based on constituency, but then when you get to the constituency data, it might be a little bit difficult.
Yes.
However, again, which is why the analysis is important, because even in the post-analysis, then someone can look at a constituency that has been split, so to speak, when the additional constituencies were created, to see how that division has impacted on voting patterns. So as a unit, how that constituency fared, and then after the creation of the additional constituencies, how the two have been functioning over the last 3 elections.
Yeah, and that is a really good comparison. Like, I can just hop quickly back to the constituencies tab. But we can see here, like this constituency here, which is Mayaro, I believe, and this constituency here, Muruga Tableland, they were part of a bigger constituency called Ottawa.
South Tableland?
Well, so Muruga Tableland, when it originally split, was Princestown South Tableland. Before that, it was part of this bigger constituency called Nariva Ottawa.
Okay. Ottawa, right, yes.
Yeah.
True.
And that constituency had the same tendencies of flipping back and forth to party, which is, that's a much cleaner cut to make compared to, let's say, Aruka Maloney, which was the combination of some polling stations from St. Augustine, and some polling stations from W. Murrah, which was previously Aruka South, and some polling stations from Lupino Borneo West, which was previously Aruka North. And so some are more clean cut than others. It's interesting that, we took 3 constituencies and made a new one that has never been not PNM and actually is a PNM stronghold. And it does raise questions at the creation of constituencies like Shogunas East from the original Shogunas constituency. It does raise questions about, gerrymandering and all that, but that's a different discussion.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, jumping back to the politicals.
Back to the statistics, right?
Yeah. Right below that previous chart, which was about the electorate versus voter turnout, there's a political distribution by party, voting distribution by party, my bad, which, kind of shows the voting trends, again, starting in 2007, based on the total number of votes a party got and like how it rose and how it fell. Right now, the lines aren't color coordinated with the party's colors. We're working on that. But it's definitely important to look at the key.
Yeah, but we should be able to read the graph. And go, to correspond with the colors, even if it's not party colors. The data is still there, so we can see how persons voted one party to the next. This COP, if we go to COP for example, so what are we saying in the graph, in the line graph? So we're saying that in 2007, right, 148,000 persons voted for COP. Is that what this is saying?
Yep.
Right. Compared to 2015, where we've seen a marked decline continuously over the years to what is now, in 2015, what was only 44,114 persons. But again, this is where the analysis comes in, because now the COP would have contested less seats in the 2015 election as opposed to the 2007 election.
The COP contested all 41, I believe, in 2007.
In 2007.
Including Tobago.
Right, that's when they got no seats. Then in 2010, when they joined the partnership,
they contested less seats, that's what I believe.
And then in the 2015 election, they contested even less seats.
Even less seats.
No, they contested perhaps the same amount of seats. However, of course, things swung from the partnership to the current administration. So we've seen how, which is why the analysis is important. It's not to say that the 2007 and say 2015 is it's not the same number of seats that they would have contested. So it is not an indictment on a party or a gain, which is why which is why the analysis is important as well, because just presenting the data, which is why some people use it for good propaganda. I don't know if good propaganda makes sense, or if that's an oxymoron. But some people present it, to support their opinions, and then others to negate something. And so if you were just looking at it without having the context, which is why context is key, you would think, oh, well, all of a sudden there is a significant decline in voters for the COP. But the environment within which that is happening, what caused that, is also important.
Yes, and kind of going off of that as well, this is inclusive of the third parties that contest 1 or 2 seats. We don't take into context that the UNC only contests 39 seats and has only contested 39 seats going back to 2000. And don't contest the Tobago seats. That's some percentage of the votes. So this is definitely something it's nice to see, and to see the graphs, and it's mainly a comparison between the two biggest parties. And we actually address this in the individual constituency breakdown, where you can see party by party against party.
What's a constituency like for, because we have here, sorry, just to recap or summarize rather. So we can look at on this platform, we can look at electoral turnout overall, we can look at votes cast for a particular party. So, can you scroll down? Is there more to it?
Nope, that's it. I mean, it's a voting distribution by party in a pie chart.
Voting distribution, right, by party. So if we go back to the constituencies that you're suggesting, can we take a constituency like Diego Martin Central?
Sure.
Right?
There we go.
From time immemorial, because I'm a constituent, I know that, so we have electorate and voter turnout. The total electorate has seemingly plateaued between 2015 and 2020. However, between 2010 and 2015, the votes cast has plateaued.
Yeah, the votes cast has plateaued. The electorate has increased by almost 3,000 people, which is telling.
2015. But then when we scroll down,
you can see the voting distribution by party.
Voting distribution by party, and this is because this is considered a PNM stronghold as well.
Yep.
This is not one of those marginal seats. From time immemorial, they would have had always had a candidate contesting the election who's victorious. And so what I want to look at is on the voter distribution by party on the PNM line between 2007. Is that the PNM line? Right.
Yeah.
So 2007, 9,301. This is votes.
Yes.
Right. In 2010, we dip by about 100 or less.
Yeah, about 100.
by
Oh,
three,
by
by
300.
260, about that.
Yeah.
So by 260, we dipped to 9,040 votes. And then in 2015, we saw a surge to
258.
13,258. And so again, what I want to think is, there could again in the analysis be a correlation between the rise in the electorate, again this growing youth population, growing number of new voters, or young people, because again that youth bulge is important. But then we see a correspondent decline in who is that? Is that COP?
Yeah. Well, COP
In
didn't
COP's
contest it
in 2015. No, they
yeah.
did.
Did they? In
This
2015?
this in 2015, well, you see, I can't remember. I know Gavin, not Gavin, he was Diego Martin Northeast, and for some reason he kept campaigning in Diego Martin Central. But
Yeah.
the candidate for Diego Martin Central may have been from the COP. I don't think he was from UNC. You would have to go back. We'd have to go back to your electoral candidate sheet to see. But I wanted
Yeah.
to just look at how the COP line somehow mirrors the PNM line, if you're seeing that,
Yeah.
for those of you on the screen. So when they started in 2007, when there was a dip in PNM votes, there was an increase in COP votes. But
Yep.
then when there was an increase in PNM votes, there was a almost symmetrical or correspondent decrease in COP votes. Are you seeing that?
Yep. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And I don't know if we can find the UNC line.
UNC doesn't contest. I'm sorry, didn't contest this in 2015. As
2015
far
or in
as
2010, but in 2007 they
yeah.
may have
Oh my.
contested it
There we go.
before the partnership. And so in 2007, which is ostensibly again why data is important even for political strategy, because if you see UNC's votes according to this graph at 582 in 2007 compared to 9,300 and something, 301 in 2007, then obviously you would and not only
Rethink your
that, but
strategy.
right, in political strategy, because you see in 2007 when the COP was independent, quote unquote, you saw that they performed better than the UNC in that constituency, garnering 5,000 and something votes. Here,
Yep.
because Diego Martin Central has sort of maintained its electorate, so to speak, no split in there, or not that I know of, it would be interesting to see what happened before the COP came in 2007. But of course,
Yes.
having performed better than the UNC in 2007, then it's no surprise that in 2010 it will be a COP contested seat. So it also helps us to understand political strategy, but also helps us to understand why or how certain constituencies in the partnership would have been divided or delineated. And it also tells us where some parties have to do some work. Because in 2000 and I don't want to misquote, 2010, I want to believe it is, the new national vision around there came on the scene, and they were able to get 145 votes. Wow.
Yep, and that
No,
increased.
because
That
right,
increased.
and maybe I was looking at, that was the last time I looked at counting. I told you all in the last episode, I don't look at electoral counting. I read the report after. my blood pressure can't take sitting down and watching vote counts. But I remember in certain polling stations, the votes were in the single digits. So kudos to them for getting 100 and something votes. But let's look at a marginal seat if we can.
Sure.
I know,
Oh, my favorite.
guys, while he pulls that up, I know I've been trying to be good and do 30-minute episodes, but it is almost impossible. I like to talk, Trini's like to talk. It is engaging content. So we're in a marginal seat now in what is this, Moruga Tableland, right?
The marginal of marginals.
The marginal of marginals, but we see a steady increase in the total electorate. We see a slight increase between the 2007 to 2015 voter turnout or votes cast. Even between 2010 and 2015, there is a somewhat of an increase. It hasn't technically plateaued yet, but we look like it could be going that way. And then when we go, voter turnout in 2010 was up. In 2015, voter turnout declined by maybe 3 percentage points.
Yeah, but I mean, it is worth noting that this is one constituency that has consistently, quote unquote, high voter turnout.
Turnout, yes.
This is also the highest. I think the highest we've ever seen is something around 81 or 83% voter turnout in any constituency. And this constituency is consistently in the like top 5 of voter turnouts in the country.
And perhaps because of that, well, what the US would call swing states and what we call marginal seats, because of the nature of the constituency, of course, I believe that, again, as a matter of political strategy, parties do that much more to mobilize voters to get to the polls, not just to tell them that they're there, but to get to the polls on election day, because it is important. In the next episode, which was supposed to be episode 2, don't fight me. In the next episode, we'll talk about why it is important to vote, whether or not you're in a marginal seat, and whether or not you're in a quote unquote safe seat. And we talk about crapo-in seat politics, but regardless of what constituency you are in, marginal or safe, it is important to get out and vote. But in Moruga Tableland, voting distribution by party, again, we see in a sort of correlation between which two is that on the top? Is that UNC and PNM?
This would be UNC and PNM. Yes, the COP traditionally hasn't done well here.
Right, that's in 2007. But when we see again almost symmetrical positioning, so to speak, of the voting distribution, saying that a third party may not necessarily have the kind of effect it is hoping for in that constituency, because the only third party to get a vote in 2007 would have been the COP at 1,437, and then again, because they haven't contested, and perhaps again as a matter of political strategy, third parties don't seem to be wrangling in that space.
No, generally.
Are they running from marginal seats?
Yeah, no, generally third parties don't running from. Yeah, no, generally third parties don't go for marginal seats, and I think if they do, it's because. So I'll step back from that. Moruga Tableland currently has the PNM, the UNC, and I believe I'll just hop over quickly again.
Sure.
Yeah, it has 5 people running here. PNM, UNC, THC, TPTT, and an independent candidate. And so typically this is what you see, but typically they don't usually get votes. And it's madly unfortunate, but...
So is it let me ask this question again based on, and I mean we can only go based on the data. So is it that in previous years, again 2015, 2010, 2007, have there been third-party candidates? I mean, we see COP in 2007, but other than the COP, because we know in 2010 and 2015 they joined with the UNC, so their votes will be reflected in UNC votes, supposedly. But have we seen other third parties? Is it that they're just not getting votes?
They just don't. They just don't get votes. So if they do, and if I'm remembering the back end of this correctly, it was less than 0.001 or 0.01% of the votes, so it just wouldn't show on the graph.
Can you tell me, because on the bottom line here there is a party on the baseline here, right beneath, go across to 2007. It's so they contested it, but they also got 0 votes. 0 votes. Because what I want to say is, because again, when I go back to the episode 1 in this season, and I was talking about, again, third parties, and I was talking about this thing about we blame tribalism on a lot of things, right? And here we have a marginal constituency who, again, if we are going with that same reason or that same logic, that if not this then this, or because of this, that kind of logical extrapolation, or people in safe seats vote for this particular party because they belong to they're predominantly a particular ethnic group, and or because of voting tradition. You know, the PNM till are dead, the UNC till are dead, and we blame a lot of things on tribalism. But here we have a marginal seat who has shown they don't have a candle for any party.
Absolutely.
According to, but then we still see third parties having a difficulty in garnering the kind of votes and garnering the kind of support. I think then we have to, like I said, tribalism is an issue. I am not denying that, but I think we have to, in our political discussions, look at other issues, outside of tribalism that may be hindering third-party progress. And in this case, again, which is why, to go back to my initial thinking in episode 1, in Trinidad and Tobago, if we are to be honest with ourselves, if we look in the mirror, we are a people of show me, before a thing. We are a country of bandwagonists. Oh gosh, I tried to be diplomatic. We are a country of bandwagonists to the extent that, or in this case, that I need to see to believe. And I was saying, Dwayne, because I don't know if you listened to that episode, but I was saying that third parties face a peculiar challenge of, in some instances, yes, tribalism, but in other instances of they have no track record where people can say, you know what, I will place my faith and my confidence in this unknown party, in this third force, Patriotic Front, MSJ, in this, NDRAC was part of the partnership, in this PEP, in this,
I think it comes down to a couple of things. And I mean, I'll first address the Moruga Tableland, where in my discussions with people who live in this constituency, it seems like at least about 2,000 people or so, the marginal swing, basically, the 1,500, are people who vote based on the actual candidate and not party. And so I've heard that if a lot of people are questioning the PNM's chance right now because the candidate they put up here isn't very popular. I shouldn't say it's very popular, but isn't seen as a loyal candidate. So that's a Moruga Tableland conundrum. I think third parties here, and I've been seeing this as I go to the manifestos, they struggle with messaging and consistent branding, and you see this with inconsistency in policy and manifestos. You see this with the messaging they send out across to the people and their reach and how they try to reach people. I think that's what the COP got right when they went. They branded themselves as, we are not the PNM, we are not the UNC. We are trying to get a third way, a reform of politics.
And that's also where they went wrong in 2010. But,
when they rejoined,
exactly. But that 2007 effort. But you see, I think, again, to your point, I think it also ties into the point of, see and believe and having a track record, because if your branding and your messaging and your policy statements, right, are known, and I mean in the episode I was talking about the MSJ, why the MSJ might see an improvement in their fortunes this election. I don't know if it will be enough to get a seat, but they might see an improvement, is because they have been consistent in terms of getting out there, in terms of commenting on policy in a way that is better than other third parties, and they've come to the thing with a seriousness and with a kind of support. I don't know how many people are in their party, but with a kind of support that is what assists the big two in what they do, and which is even the COP. Why the COP? I think, again, if we go to Trinbagonians, the COP as well has to be distinguished from other third parties or other green ventures, if we could call it that, mixing analogies, because the COP as a third party came out of a party. And we have to also remember that Winston Dukaran, who led that charge, had a track record.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
He had a when I say a platform, I don't mean a political platform, but he had a platform to stand on in terms of, what I can do, or you've seen me in action. But when you come out of nowhere,
it is much more difficult. Absolutely.
You have to that you're talking about in terms of branding, messaging, and like I say, the track record, the seriousness with which you engage Trinbagonians. You have to be that much more ready, and you can't wait till And I mean, I said it then, I'll say it again. You can't wait till the year of election to tell me that you have a political party.
Absolutely, absolutely. Subtweet at Patriotic Front.
No,
But yeah,
I'm not subtweeting anybody. Although I did call their name. I think I did call their name in the last thing. But
yeah,
you have to be on that. You have to be on that because people are putting their future in your hands, and we are
absolutely.
not going to, regardless of how we feel or what we. And I mean, even when we look at, and which is why we have to be politically mature, even when we look at within parties, right?
Hmm.
We have to know that our voting is also kind of line up behind the leader, right? If one
Yeah,
of our big
yeah,
two say we're going to take John Doe from off the street and he is our political leader, they will be held to pay,
yeah,
right? We know how politics is, where it's very much of a growing game, where you start off in the party, you might start off young, and you know, whether you start off as a local government councillor or you start off as an MP, and you show your worth
yeah,
before, and it's mainly senior members who rise to the leadership.
yeah.
If any of the big two decide, like I said, they're going to take John Doe, who we never hear about, who we never see about, and that is the political leader, and that is who we presenting to you as who will be the next prime minister. Again, the machinery will have to work overtime. There are those who, tribalism and whatever else you want to chuck it down to, who will vote for the party anyway. But then
Hmm.
there is going to be that segment of that party to say, you're mad. You know, they are going to have to do that work of building that confidence, because let's say we had leadership elections for any of the big two in December of 2019,
Hmm.
and they picked a John Doe. It will take them all of 2020 to show and prove. And so I'm just saying that those are the things that these third parties have to take into consideration, because sometimes, not sometimes, the majority of the times we blame the electorate, but the party has to do, in this instance, the party has to do the work.
Yep,
You're not just
absolutely.
going to, yeah, you're not just going to get a vote because people
Because you
frustrated
put someone
PNM
up.
and
Yeah.
UNC, you know, oh,
Well,
they will just vote for you just so you're taking us
yeah. I mean,
for
and
a
actually,
ride.
here's an example. Here's an example of actually what you referenced earlier, where like people vote out parties instead of voting in.
Exactly.
Look at the difference here when PNM is voted in after having
Mm-hmm.
a track record before and being winning two elections, and then when
Mm-hmm.
they were voted out, like there was a huge upswing. And this is something I've been seeing consistently, where at least in PNM strongholds, or what had been considered PNM strongholds before 2010, um, their margins of win, or at least the margins of wins in the marginals, are smaller versus when they
Mm-hmm.
were voted out, where it's much huger.
Exactly, which is what I was about to point out too, because the decline in votes for that particular party, if you look at 2007 rather, to 2010,
Hmm.
when you look at the decline in PNM votes,
Hmm.
it's minimal. So you have,
Yep.
in 2007 they were in I don't like to say in power. They were in office in that
Yeah.
constituency, with 8,929 votes, whereas in 2010, 8,681 votes, but it wasn't enough to get them into power,
Yep.
into
Into
office in that
government, into office.
constituency.
Yeah.
And even in 2015, when they were voted in, again 2,000 plus extra, 2,000 extra votes is what got them in,
Yep.
right? But the swing in 2010 was huge enough, to get in terms of the disparity between the votes. That is where the big disparity happened
Yes.
in Maruga Tableland, which is why I think it's important. Oh, sorry. Sorry, my analysis juices. Because I think, which is why it's important in Maruga Tableland, because Maruga Tableland, as a individual and independent constituency, was not in effect before 2007, right?
No,
This is
it
one of
wasn't.
those, right? This is one of those quote unquote new constituencies, which
Yes.
is why it is important to see what happens in 2020 with
Yes.
Maruga Tableland votes, because we see, even though we call it a swing, we
Hmm.
see twice Maruga Tableland has voted for the PNM with small margins of win. In that 2020 year, it almost looks like a double Dutch rope, for those of you who can't see
It's
the swing. But in 2010, it was so wide a gap between votes. I think 2020 will help us really see whether or not Moruga Tableland is this the marginal seat that we claim it is, and if we just call it marginal because there has been a handover of political parties. You understand?
Yeah, yeah. Even well, I think we can look back to the trends of the constituency that contained it before, which was the Artois one, Nariva Artois, which
Yeah.
also had the same tendencies. Was PNM in 1991, UNC in 1995, UNC in 2000, UNC in 2001, PNM 2002, and so it basically kind of mirrored the government. Like this,
Right.
just like Tunapuna, usually is a predictor of the government that's going to be in office. So that's another thing that'd be interesting to see in 2020.
Right, and then it's also what I was saying, which might be a little deeper dive in terms of the data or whatnot. But again, when we look at before even comparing this group of people, and this is perhaps not for this platform, maybe whoever is doing the PhD thesis on it, when you because you can also take, because what they did was they didn't add ballot boxes, so to speak, or they didn't add polling stations. They
Yeah.
zoned polling stations. So
Yes.
if you have the votes in those for those polling stations, because EBC does report on polling,
Yep.
votes cast in polling stations, then
Yeah.
you can do some kind of back
Some
analysis of
analysis.
how
Yeah.
this particular those people in this
Polling
electoral
state. Yeah.
area, even though it wasn't called this, or even though we could
Yeah.
sort of extricate those votes from the
Yeah.
previous constituency.
Yeah. No. That is the
Exciting.
next. Yeah. No. That is the next phase of this project. We're aiming to talk to the EBC and see if we can get the stats from them with polling station by polling station data. And yeah, we're going to have the map now. Is the map in the by the next? I want to say by the local government elections, the map will be. You would see the constituency, you see the individual uh, filling-ins of the polling stations. So
Dwayne, we've been talking for almost an hour now, so I have to end. People are going to send in the comments, so I have to end this episode. Again, guys, the intention was that we would do this in one episode. I was being so overly optimistic. We said we will do it in two, so now I guess we have to do it in three, because I want to come back to the statistics where we discuss economic statistics, because I see you have a platform or a page there for that. I think this is so exciting because again, you get to use the data in a meaningful way. I told you again in that first episode, I don't know if I could do the live session on election day, but hopefully, again, I'm not committing to it yet. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes over the next week or so. But hopefully, we can do a post-mortem on the election and some of this kind of discussion, because we will have data for 2020. We will have the information, or at least the outcome for 2020. And so this kind of discussion will be that much richer,
yes.
that much more exciting if I do a session on August 11th. So don't waste my tongue about this being a 3-part instead of a 1-part special. However, we'll come back. I promise we will discuss general elections 2020, but we will start with that economic statistics part of the website. Guys, I am just so excited about this. But remember, again, and it's going to be my slogan and my closing for at least up until elections. But remember, I always ask you to get on your soapbox. Tell us what you're passionate about. Speak up about what you're passionate about. But remember, the most effective way for you to get on your soapbox between now and August 10th, or on August 10th, or actually no, for the next 5 years. I mean, we don't know what will happen within that 5-year period, but the most effective way that you can get on your soapbox about things that matter to you is to go out to your polling station and to cast your vote.